Welcome back to 5-Minute Sermons. We are this week going to be in Psalm 19. The beauty of Psalm 19 is that it has two marvelous sections that we can break it down to. One is of general revelation, and the other is of special revelation and man's response. And so as we look into this psalm, it's a little bit different than the other psalms. Deep, rich theology is here. No different than in the others. But very often people may not find the same measure of encouragement. Let me encourage us that the place that we can find this comfort, this encouragement, that this rich blessing from Psalm 19 is found in the fact that God generally reveals himself in the entirety of creation, and by his grace he specifically and specially reveals himself to us, and that is a blessed thing. So let's dig in. Psalm 19 verse 1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. Their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber, and like a strong man runs its course with joy. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuits to the end of them, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. Again, another psalm of David, and as he starts into it, he makes the settled declaration that the heavens and the sky above, what do? They declare and proclaim the glory of God and his handiwork. I absolutely love that. The creation expresses that there is God. We know that, we see that it is evident and self-evident. And poetically he continues on and he says, day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. So day after day, night after night, through the cycles of the world, there is a beautiful blessing that there is a knowledge revealed about God and who he is. Now verse 3 is maybe in some of your verses a little bit controversial, because in one way we could think that it says, there is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. In other words, the heavens and earth, they declare this glory of God and proclaim his handiwork, and guess what? It's heard everywhere. That voice that is being expressed there is heard, and there's no place it's not heard. Another way to think about it, and many people do, is that, there's no speech and there are no words. There's none of that going on, and yet verse 3 it says what? Or verse 4 it says what? Their voice goes throughout all the earth. So even though there aren't literal words that the heavens are speaking or that the sky above is proclaiming, the fact is people know. People know. The voice goes throughout all the earth, and their works to the end of the world. That is an amazing thing. There's, in other words, no place to get away from the declaration and the proclamation of the fact that there is a God. There are great opportunities for us to see that every day in just the simple beauties and mundane things of life. This is what David wants us to get. Now, as you go through the second half of verse 4, this might be confusing to some. Verses 4b, verse 5 and verse 6, what does he mean by this? Well, let's go through it slowly and simply. In them he has set a tent for the sun. Many people allegorize this, and they don't need to. Many people put hyper-spiritual meanings here that they don't need to. Who is them? Well, them is there. Who is there? Well, verse 4, their voice. Who is their voice? Well, the heavens and the sky, remember? They're the ones proclaiming. They're the ones declaring. Their voice goes through all the earth. In them, in the sky and heaven above, God has done what? Has set a tent for the sun. So in other words, he's just giving further expression to how creation is speaking of God's glory and declaring his handiwork, and the Son becomes an instrument of that. In them he has set a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber, and like a strong man runs its course with joy. In other words, it is evident, it is obvious, it is coming out proudly. It's not hidden, it's not veiled from our sight. He comes out with joy. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuits to the end of them, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. And so we can bless God's holy name and praise God that we are without excuse. That God makes himself self-evident in his created order. But the thing is that's not quite enough, which will take us to our next section. God bless you. We'll catch you next time.